Hello out there in RC world. This is my how I did a servo relocation on my CC-01 chassis. One of the first things you got to do is decide if you actually want to do this, because you got to make some pretty significant cuts, and once you cut it, you can't go back. One of the first things you want to do is figure out where your servo is going to sit here. What I did was mine is moved it back almost to these two studs here, which are the upper control link mounts. Then what you have to do is cut a couple of slots in your tub. Those are for the servo tabs. You don't want to cut the tabs off the servo. These really help hold it in there. Once you get the tabs cut, the slots cut, the servo drops right in there. Boom. Servo's mounted. The only thing from this point is to create a mounting hold down bracket. The side to side is tight, but the up and down is loose. I just drilled a couple of holes on the top of the servo. I have this steel rod that's got a little bend in it, and I just slide it across, holds it in there great. That's how I did it. Depending on your body, you might be able to incorporate your body mounts into holding that down. Depends on your body. Now for the big thing. This is the brick that goes on the front. Basically like a bumper for the chassis itself. That needs to be removed. I cut mine flush back to the differential housing here. I got a little hoop here, so there's plenty of room for my steering linkage to go up. Depending on your body and how it mounts, will depend on how much plastic you leave. I left a little strip up here so that I could create new body mounts for my Jeep. Skid plate, front skid plate needs to be built so you don't tear your steering links up and bend them. So I built a little skid plate there. It mounts between the bottom plate of the suspension and the bottom of the front diff of the tub itself. Once you have that cut out, your steering knuckles need to be turned around to the front. The front shocks need to be relocated. Usually they're in the front. You need to go in the back because your knuckle won't turn all the way. You need to drill a hole for the top mount, and I just used the screw that holds the lower control arm together right here. It works great. These are upgraded shocks from a Rustler, I believe. They're aluminum. They're dry. This is actually the stock spring from the CC-01 chassis. I get pretty good movement. It could be a little looser, but it's good. I like it. Once you get that done and you can start setting, get your wheels on, get them straight, you can then start bending and creating your steering links. Mine have a little bend in them. I guess I could have gone straight across. This is the first set I've built. It works pretty well. Eventually I'll probably build new ones, but for now, like I said, it works really well. Depending on which side you put your servo on, your servo coming out here, you have to trim a little bit on both sides so that there's room for your servo or your servo horn to swing both ways. So as you see, there's a little hoop cut here, a little upper taken out. Again, it all depends on how your body's going to mount, what body you're using. But this is a very effective upgrade mod. The stock location for the servo is junk. You get, hardly any steering out of it, and it just doesn't work. There's too many joints and sloppiness in it. This eliminates all of that and really gives you much more scale look. I mean, you got steering links in the front, and it just looks real. Quite impressed with it so far, with what I've done. You want to make sure that your gears and your motor are all installed before you do this, because the servo does cover the front screw for the gear plate here. So you want to have all that done before you go and do this. Probably got like 4 or 5 hours into the whole thing with cutting and constructing and bending and whatnot. But so far so good. Really enjoy it. A couple other things I've done is created a swing arm for my rear suspension. Again, these are upgraded shocks, aluminum, I believe, from the same Rustler. But there. Excellent movement, good articulation. I used to have Magic Link, what they call it, would be a shock going through the top, drill a hole and mount the shock, and then mount the top of your existing shock to the shock rod that comes through. And then when it flexes, it pulls down on it. There was a lot of drag and friction on it, so I didn't really get what I wanted out of it. So I created this. And I love it. Works great. I also created new lower links in the rear. The old ones are just soft and flex all the time. Didn't like it. So I created new lower bars. I had to upgrade these mounting points because they took a couple of good hits and broke. And it's just a stud that goes through this. It's all hollow around it. So I built it all up. JB welded it. Holds great now. When I did that, I lost my lower shock mount. So I took a couple of plastic pieces that are from a servo mounting kit. JB welded them to the bottom of the axle so that I have my lower shock mount. Works great. Love it. Gives it a much more realistic look, I believe. And it's great. I don't get a lot of straight downward motion. I don't know if my links are the wrong size, but really enjoy it. Looks great. I don't have any electronics in this right now because I fried the motor, stock motor with it. We need to get, 35, maybe a 45 turn motor for this. So I can't show you the steering in working, in motion. But it works. It's quite nice. Again, the biggest thing you got to do, cut your slots for your servo. Get that mounted in there. And then you can cut your brick off depending on your body mounts, how much you actually have to take off. First I tried just drilling a hole, a 1/2-inch hole through there, but it wasn't enough room. I had to trim off so much plastic that it just made more sense to cut it. So I hope this helps somebody out there make their CC-01 better. Thanks guys, enjoy, subscribe, like, have a great day.